The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the faint glimmer of distant stars. The colony ship Resilience drifted silently, its hull a complex blend of metal and living tissue, a testament to humanity's remarkable journey of survival. J. Park stood at the observation deck, his eyes scanning the infinite blackness. At 42, he was the current captain of this generational vessel, inheriting leadership from his parents and grandparents before him. The ship had been home to hundreds of humans for over 2 centuries, a floating sanctuary that carried the last known survivors of Earth. Generations ago, their ancestors had launched this ship in a desperate attempt to escape a planet ravaged by environmental collapse, devastating wars, and systemic failures. What began as a simple survival mission had transformed into something far more extraordinary. The ship's interior was unlike any traditional spacecraft. Corridors pulsed with a soft blue-green bioluminescence, organic systems intertwined with advanced technological networks. Hydroponics gardens filled entire decks, providing food, oxygen, and a sense of living environment. Children played in carefully designed communal spaces, their genetic makeup subtly different from their distant Earth ancestors. Mira Kim, the lead scientist, approached Jay with her standard data tablet. Her movements were precise, her body showing signs of genetic optimization. Slightly longer limbs, enhanced muscle density, and neural pathways that processed information faster than traditional human biology. "We're approaching the outer rim of known mapped space," she reported. Her voice was calm, almost clinical, but a hint of excitement flickered in her eyes. They all knew what this meant. Potential discovery, potential contact, potential survival. The ship's population of 500 was a carefully balanced ecosystem. Each individual had multiple skills, trained from childhood to be adaptable. Engineers could perform medical procedures, scientists could pilot spacecraft, and everyone understood the fundamental rule. Survival depends on collective cooperation. Jay remembered the stories passed down through generations, how their original mission was simple survival, how technology and genetic engineering became their primary tools of adaptation, how human resilience transformed from a biological trait to a complex living strategy. The ship's computer systems were unlike anything that existed before. Partially biological, partially mechanical, they could predict potential threats, adapt communication systems, and make split-second decisions that would have been impossible for traditional computers. A soft alert tone rang through the ship. Mira's fingers danced across her tablet, analyzing incoming data. "Interesting," she muttered, a rare display of emotion. "We're detecting complex energy signatures from a region previously considered empty." Jay walked closer, studying the holographic display. Quantum sensors were picking up traces of technology, not from their ship, not from any known configuration they had in their extensive databases. "Prepare initial contact protocols," he instructed. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. No panic, no confusion, just calculated preparation. Their genetic modifications weren't just physical. Psychological resilience had been carefully cultivated. Fear, while not eliminated, was a managed response. Stress became a tool, not a weakness. Each crew member could maintain composure in situations that would have overwhelmed humans from centuries past. Young crew members gathered around secondary monitoring stations. Their eyes, slightly larger with enhanced optical capabilities, reflected a mix of curiosity and calm determination. They had been raised on stories of their journey, of human potential, of survival against impossible odds. The ship's outer sensors began collecting more detailed information. Whatever was out there was complex, potentially intelligent. Years of isolation had not diminished humanity's core traits: curiosity, adaptability, and an unbreakable spirit of exploration. Jay looked at Mira, a silent communication passing between them. They were more than just a crew. They were the carriers of human potential, the last known flame of a civilization that had once dominated a single blue planet. The Resilience continued its steady path through the darkness, a living testament to human survival, waiting to reveal its next chapter. The first alien scout ship appeared without warning, its sleek metallic surface reflecting the distant starlight. The Resilience's systems immediately activated, not with traditional weapons, but with a complex neural network that could analyze, predict, and neutralize potential threats in milliseconds. Mira Kim watched the incoming data streams with a calm intensity. Her fingers moved across holographic interfaces, lines of advanced code dancing beneath her touch. The alien vessel's sensors were probing, searching, attempting to understand the human ship's composition. What they found defied their understanding. The Resilience's defensive systems weren't mechanical. They were alive. Adaptive algorithms shifted and transformed, creating complex patterns that confused and ultimately disabled the alien scanning equipment. It wasn't an attack. It was a demonstration of technological superiority that spoke volumes without firing a single weapon. Inside the ship's central processing chamber, biological neural networks intertwined with quantum computing systems. These weren't just machines. They were living, thinking entities that could learn and adapt faster than any known technological system in the galaxy. The scout ship's communication attempts were met with a surprising response. Instead of standard radio signals, the Resilience transmitted a complex mathematical sequence, a language of pure information that would take the alien civilization months to fully decode. J. Park watched the interaction with a measured expression. The crew around him moved with practiced efficiency, each person understanding their role in this unexpected first contact. Young technicians monitored systems that seemed to breathe and pulse with an almost organic rhythm. "They're trying to understand us," Mira commented, her voice neutral. "But understanding requires more than scanning. It requires communication." The alien scout ship began to retreat, its systems overwhelmed by the complexity of the human technological approach. But this was just the beginning. Within hours, news of the encounter would spread through alien communication networks, creating a wave of curiosity and concern. Their technologies were unlike anything seen before. Energy systems that could convert quantum fluctuations into usable power. Medical nanites that could rebuild cellular structures in minutes. Communication systems that transcended traditional electromagnetic waves. A young engineer named Hoon quickly developed a preliminary translation matrix. It wasn't just about converting words, it was about translating entire conceptual frameworks. How do you explain a technological approach that sees no difference between biological and mechanical systems? The ship's hydroponic systems were a perfect example of this integration. Plants grew using advanced nutrient delivery systems that were part biological, part technological. Sensors monitored each leaf, each root, adjusting environmental conditions with microscopic precision. Mira pulled up holographic displays showing the technological innovations developed during their generations of space travel. Water recycling, systems that were 99.99% efficient. Energy generation methods that produced zero waste. Medical technologies that could regenerate damaged tissues in hours. "We're not just survivors," she told Jay quietly. "We're a complete reimagining of technological potential." The alien scouts' retreat was more than a defensive move. It was a recognition. Something fundamentally different had entered their known universe. Humanity wasn't just back. Humanity had transformed. Communication logs began flooding alien information networks. Initial reports described a ship that seemed to think, to breathe, to exist in a state between living organism and advanced machine. Researchers and scientists across multiple star systems began preparing their most advanced analysis tools. But the Resilience was already several steps ahead. Each incoming scan, each attempt to understand, was itself being studied. The humans were collecting data about those trying to collect data about them. Jay looked at the crew around him, young faces, enhanced through generations of careful genetic and technological optimization. They weren't just prepared for this moment. They had been specifically developed to navigate this exact type of complex first contact scenario. The technological renaissance had begun, and humanity was leading the way. Outside the ship's adaptive hull, stars continued their ancient dance, silent witnesses to a transformation that would soon reshape galactic understanding. The Galactic Council chamber was unlike any traditional meeting space. Holographic representations of various alien civilizations flickered around a massive circular platform, their collective tension almost visible in the charged atmosphere. Tai Quan stood at the center, representing humanity. He was neither intimidating nor submissive, simply present. His neural implants allowed him to process complex diplomatic scenarios faster than any traditional negotiator. Behind him, a small delegation of humans waited, each carefully selected for their unique capabilities. "We are not here to conquer," Tay began, his voice clear and direct. "We are here to participate." The Zarkonian representative, a crystalline being that communicated through color shifts, pulsed with aggressive blue and red patterns. "Your technological capabilities represent a potential threat to galactic stability," it communicated through translation systems. Tai's response was immediate. With a subtle gesture, he projected a series of technological solutions that humanity had developed. Water purification systems that could clean entire planetary ecosystems, energy generation methods that produced zero environmental damage, medical technologies that could reverse genetic degradation. "These are not weapons," Tay explained. "These are solutions to problems your civilizations have struggled with for millennia." The chamber fell silent. Each representative began analyzing the presented technologies, their complex scanning systems working overtime to understand the human proposals. Mira Kim, stationed in a remote monitoring room aboard the Resilience, watched every micro-interaction. Her enhanced cognitive systems processed diplomatic nuances that most would miss. Each alien representative's body language, each subtle communication shift, was being recorded and analyzed. The human delegation was small but powerful. Each member represented a different technological or cultural expertise. Where traditional diplomatic teams might have dozens of representatives, humans demonstrated efficiency through carefully selected individuals. Hun, the young communication specialist, worked silently in the background. His neural interfaces were creating real-time translation matrices that went beyond simple language conversion. These systems captured cultural contexts, emotional undertones, and complex philosophical implications. The Galactic Council had never encountered a civilization quite like humanity. They were not seeking territory. They were not demanding resources. They were offering solutions and requesting collaborative participation. "Your sudden reappearance challenges existing power structures," the Quantum Collective representative stated. Its form was a complex holographic representation that shifted between multiple dimensional states. Tay's response was calculated. "Challenges create opportunities for growth. We are not here to replace. We are here to collaborate." Each technological demonstration was carefully curated. Planetary restoration techniques, advanced medical regeneration processes, communication systems that could bridge vast interstellar distances with unprecedented efficiency. The diplomatic confrontation was unlike any previous galactic interaction. Humanity wasn't presenting itself as a military power or an economic force. They were presenting themselves as problem solvers, as a civilization that had survived by developing adaptive technologies and collaborative strategies. Hour after hour, the negotiations continued. Traditional diplomatic protocols were repeatedly challenged and reimagined. The humans didn't argue. They demonstrated. They didn't demand. They proposed. Jay Park, watching from the Resilience, understood the deeper strategy. This wasn't just a diplomatic meeting. This was humanity's reintroduction to a galaxy that had long believed them extinct. As the session approached its conclusion, something remarkable happened. The alien representatives began asking questions not from a place of fear, but from genuine curiosity. How had humanity survived? What technologies had they developed? What could be learned? Taekwon's final statement was simple, yet profound. "We are not here to change your civilizations. We are here to help you change yourselves." The diplomatic confrontation had transformed from a potential conflict into an unprecedented opportunity. Humanity had entered the galactic stage not with weapons, but with solutions, not with demands, but with possibilities. The stars outside the council chamber seemed to shimmer with potential, silent witnesses to a moment that would reshape galactic history. The first wave of human technology spread across alien civilizations, like a quiet revolution. It wasn't an invasion, it was a transformation. Hana Lee stood at the center of a massive cultural integration program. Her job was more complex than any traditional diplomat or technological transfer specialist. She understood that true change happened not through force, but through understanding. On the planet Koros, water systems transformed overnight. Entire regions that had suffered from decades of environmental collapse suddenly found themselves with clean water, sustainable agriculture, and regenerative ecosystem technologies. The local population watched in disbelief as barren landscapes began to bloom. Quantum communication networks developed by human engineers began connecting isolated planetary systems. These weren't just communication channels. They were living networks that could adapt, learn, and self-repair. Civilizations that had been separated by vast distances suddenly found themselves sharing knowledge in real time. Medical technologies created the most significant disruption. A single human-developed nanite treatment could reverse genetic damage that had plagued alien species for generations. Entire populations began experiencing healing processes that seemed like miracles. J. Park monitored these developments from the resilience. Each technological transfer was carefully managed, designed not to overwhelm but to empower. The human approach wasn't about replacing existing systems, but about providing tools for self-improvement. On the trade planet Nexus, economic systems began to change. Human-developed algorithmic frameworks showed civilizations how to create more balanced economic models. Resources could be distributed more efficiently, waste could be minimized, and collaborative economic strategies could replace competitive models. Resistance was inevitable. Some alien civilizations saw these changes as a threat. Traditional power structures began to feel the pressure of rapid technological and cultural transformation. Mira Kim predicted this resistance. Her advanced predictive models showed exactly how different societies would react. Some would embrace change. Some would fight against it. Most would experience a complex mix of excitement and fear. Young alien scientists began studying human technologies with unprecedented enthusiasm. Research centers that had been stagnant for generations suddenly burst with new energy. Collaborative projects emerged, bridging species and technological understanding. The Quantum Collective, initially suspicious, began developing joint research programs with human scientists. Their combined technologies could solve problems that had seemed impossible just months earlier. Cultural exchange programs became the most unexpected development. Alien youth began learning human adaptive strategies, not just technological skills but philosophical approaches to problem-solving, collaborative thinking, and innovative design. On a small mining colony, a group of young alien engineers redesigned their entire resource extraction system using human-inspired biomimetic technologies. They reduced environmental damage by 87% and increased efficiency by 300%. Hana Lee traveled between planetary systems, not as a traditional ambassador, but as a cultural bridge builder. Her neural implants allowed her to understand complex cultural nuances that traditional translators would miss. "We're not here to replace your cultures," she would explain to worried planetary leaders. "We're here to help you discover your own potential." The disruption wasn't just technological, it was philosophical. Civilizations began questioning long-held beliefs about progress, collaboration, and potential. Human technologies weren't just tools. They were catalysts for imagination. Some resistance movements emerged. Traditional leaders who felt threatened by rapid change tried to block human technological transfers, but their efforts seemed increasingly futile against the wave of innovation and possibility. The Resilience continued its journey, not as a conquering vessel, but as a mobile research and collaboration center. Each system they visited was subtly transformed, not through force but through shared knowledge and collaborative potential. Jay watched these developments with a sense of quiet satisfaction. Humanity's survival had never been about domination. It had always been about adaptation, collaboration, and the fundamental belief that every challenge contains the seeds of its own solution. As star systems began to interconnect in ways never before imagined, something remarkable was happening. Civilizations were not just receiving technologies, they were reimagining their own potential. The technological and cultural disruption was complete, but this was just the beginning of a much larger transformation. 10 years after first contact, the galaxy looked completely different. The Resilience had become more than a ship. It was now a mobile diplomatic and technological hub, moving between star systems, bringing connection and innovation wherever it traveled. Jay Park, now in his early 50s, watched the transformation with a sense of quiet pride. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had reimagined it. Planetary systems that were once isolated now shared complex communication networks. Economic models had been redesigned. Medical technologies had eliminated diseases that had plagued civilizations for centuries. Environmental restoration had become a universal priority. Hannah Lee led the most significant cultural integration program in galactic history. Her teams didn't just transfer technologies. They helped civilizations understand how to adapt, grow, and collaborate. On multiple planets, joint research centers emerged. Alien scientists worked alongside human experts, developing technologies that none could have created alone. A quantum communication network connected thousands of planetary systems, allowing instant knowledge transfer. The Galactic Council, once a rigid bureaucratic structure, had been completely restructured. Decision-making was now based on collaborative problem-solving rather than competitive territorial interests. Mira Kim's predictive models had been proven correct. The human approach wasn't about replacement but about empowerment. Each civilization was encouraged to develop its unique technological and cultural strengths. Young aliens studied human adaptive strategies. They learned not just technological skills but philosophical approaches to innovation, collaborative thinking, and systemic problem-solving. Energy production transformed globally. Sustainable technologies developed by human engineers eliminated fossil fuel dependencies. Planetary ecosystems began recovering at unprecedented rates. The mining colony that had once struggled with resource extraction now became a model of sustainable industrial development. Their technologies were being copied across multiple star systems. Resistance movements that initially fought against human technological transfers gradually disappeared. The benefits were too obvious to ignore. Quality of life improved everywhere. Human-inspired technologies were implemented. Taekwon, who had led the initial diplomatic negotiations, now headed the Interstellar Collaborative Development Agency. His teams worked to ensure that technological transfers respected each civilization's unique cultural context. The Resilience continued its journey, no longer just a survival vessel, but a symbol of collaborative potential. Its adaptive hull now contained research labs, diplomatic meeting spaces, and cultural exchange centers. Genetic medical technologies had extended average lifespans across multiple species. Diseases that were once considered terminal could now be reversed or prevented. Entirely, communication barriers disappeared. Neural translation technologies allowed instant, nuanced understanding between different species. Cultural misunderstandings became increasingly rare. Planetary conflicts that had lasted generations began to resolve. Collaborative problem-solving replaced traditional competitive strategies. Resources were shared, not fought over. The human approach was never about superiority. It was about potential. Every technological solution was designed to empower, not control. Agricultural systems were redesigned. Planets that were once considered uninhabitable now supported complex ecosystems. Food production increased, while environmental impact decreased. Educational systems transformed. Learning became a lifelong collaborative process. Knowledge was shared instantly across vast distances. Traditional educational hierarchies collapsed. The Quantum Collective, once suspicious of human technologies, now led joint research initiatives. Their combined technologies solved problems that had seemed impossible just a decade earlier. J. Park reflected on their journey. From a small, forgotten colony ship to architects of galactic transformation, humanity had not just survived. They had redefined what was possible. As the Resilience moved between star systems, it carried more than technologies. It carried a philosophy of collaborative potential, a belief that every challenge contains the seeds of its own solution. The galactic transformation was complete, but this was not an endpoint. It was a beginning. The stars outside seemed to shimmer with possibility, silent witnesses to a remarkable journey of human resilience, innovation, and hope.